How to know what your cat wants. It's the ultimate question, right? It's puzzled cat owners forever. But here's the thing. What if I told you they're talking to you all the time? You just haven't learned the language yet.
So what is your cat really trying to tell you? You know, when they give you that intense stare, or meow for no apparent reason, or just randomly bolt across the room. It feels like this big unsolvable mystery, doesn't it? But it's not. They have this incredibly complex communication system, and today we're gonna crack that code together.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll cover the basics of their secret language. Then, we'll get into decoding all those sounds. After that, we'll learn to read their body language, understand their common habits, and wrap up with something super important: when to call the vet. All right, first things first. If you really want to get this, you have to stop thinking like a human for a second. You've got to think like an animal that is both a predator and prey. It's this wild duality, right? They don't just use one thing to talk. It's this whole cocktail of sounds, body language, and habits all mixed together. A meow by itself, that's just a word. But a meow with a certain tail flick and an ear twitch, now that's a full sentence. Let's start with the most obvious piece of the puzzle, their sounds. So let's talk about their vocal toolkit. And get ready for this because this is the first mind-blowing fact of the day. Adult cats, they almost never meow at each other. Seriously. That whole vocabulary of meows you hear every day, they basically invented that just to talk to us, to humans. It's like their own secret language just for you and them.
Let's take the classic meow, for example. Just think about the different ones your cat uses. You know that short, kind of high-pitched meow you get when you walk in the door? That's just a friendly, hey, you're back. But what about that long, drawn-out, maybe slightly annoying meow when they're staring at their food bowl? Yeah, that's not a suggestion, that's a demand, and a pretty effective one at that.
Okay, let's talk about purring. I mean, who doesn't love that gentle little motor, right? Well, it's actually a low-frequency vibration of their vocal cords, somewhere between 25 and 150 hertz. And this is where it gets absolutely wild. That exact frequency range has been shown to actually help heal bones and tissues. So it's not just a happy sound, it's literally a built-in self-healing tool. How cool is that? And that brings us to what I like to call the purring paradox. See, we all just assume purring means a cat is happy, but that's a huge misconception. Purring is actually a sign of any intense emotion. So yeah, they purr when they're super content, but they also purr to soothe themselves when they're in a lot of pain or really stressed out. So the key here, the absolute takeaway, is context. A purring cat on your lap, that's a happy cat. A purring cat hiding under the bed, all tense, that's a cat in distress. Then you've got the sounds that are, well, a lot less subtle. That long, sad-sounding yowl. It could be a mating call, sure, but it can also mean they're lonely or, especially with older cats, confused. And then there's hissing or growling. Let's be really clear here. That is not a negotiation. It's a direct threat. It means the cat is scared or angry and is telling you, back off now. The best thing you can do is just give them their space. All right, so we've covered sounds, but sounds are only part of the story. Vocalizations are what they choose to tell us. Their body language, that's the unfiltered truth. It's their most honest form of communication because so much of it is just pure, hardwired instinct. So here's a quick little cheat sheet for you, covering the big three: tail, ears, and eyes. You'll see things like a high tail for confidence versus a tucked tail for fear, or forward ears for curiosity versus those flat airplane ears for defense. And the slow blink, well, that's pure affection. Don't worry, we're about to dive into each one of these. Okay, let's start with the tail. I want you to think of it as their emotional barometer. It gives you a live, real-time reading of their mood. So when that tail is straight up in the air, maybe with that cute little question mark hook at the end, that's a happy, confident cat who's glad to see you. But, and this is a big one, that fast, thrashing tail is not a happy dog wag. It's the exact opposite. It's a sign of irritation, and the faster it whips back and forth, the more you should probably leave them alone. Next up, the ears. They're like little satellite dishes that tune into their mood. When they're pointing forward, your cat is engaged, curious, and just soaking in information. But when those ears swivel sideways and flatten out, you know, the classic airplane ears, that's a huge warning sign. They're literally protecting their ears in case a fight is about to happen. It means they feel threatened and are getting ready to defend themselves. Now this next one is my absolute favorite, the slow blink. Animal behaviorists literally call this a kitty kiss. Think about it.
By closing their eyes in front of you, even for a split second, they're making themselves completely vulnerable. It's the ultimate sign of trust. It's them telling you, I feel 100% safe with you. And here's the best part, you can do it back. Try it. Next time your cat's looking at you, just slowly close and open your eyes. You're speaking their language, saying, I trust you too.
Okay, this leads us to another classic misunderstanding, the exposed belly. When your cat rolls over and shows you its stomach, it is a huge, massive compliment. They are exposing all of their vital organs to you. It's a sign of ultimate trust. But, and please, please remember this, for most cats, it is not an invitation for a belly rub. It's a trap. Touching that area can trigger a defensive reflex, and you'll get a handful of claws for your trouble. So look, but don't touch. Okay, we've done sounds and body language. Now let's talk about those weird little habits and routines they do every day. You might think they're just random quirks, but they're not. They're all driven by these deep, primal instincts, and they tell us a ton about how our cat is feeling.
First up, kneading, or as a lot of us call it, making biscuits. You know that rhythmic pushing they do with their paws? That's a total throwback to when they were tiny kittens. They used to do that to their mom to get milk. So when your grown-up cat does that on your lap, it's basically the highest compliment they can give. They're telling you that you make them feel as safe and content as their own mother did.
And what about when they rub their head against you, that bunting thing? It feels like a simple nuzzle, but it's so much more than that. Cats have scent glands all over their cheeks and forehead. When they rub on you, they're actually leaving their scent, their pheromones, all over you. They're marking you as theirs. It's an act of ownership, yeah, but in the sweetest way possible. They're basically saying, you're part of my family now.
The so-called love bite can be super confusing. Sometimes a little nip during play is exactly what it sounds like. They're just getting into it. But if you're petting them and they suddenly nip you, that's a totally different message. That's overstimulation. Just imagine, petting feels good, then it feels good, and then, bam, it's too much. Their senses are overloaded, and that little bite is their way of saying, okay, that's enough, I need you to stop now.
All right, I need you to really tune in for this next part because this is probably the most important section of our whole explainer. We've talked about how to translate their wants and needs, but now we have to talk about how to recognize when their signals aren't a request, but a cry for help. And this is the thing you have to remember. Cats are masters at hiding pain. It's a survival instinct. In the wild, showing weakness makes you a target. So if your normally social, chatty cat suddenly goes quiet and starts hiding, that silence is the loudest alarm bell you will ever hear. It's often the very first sign that something is seriously, seriously wrong.
And I want you to look out for this very specific posture. Vets often call it the meatloaf position. This is not a comfy, sleepy tuck. The cat is rigid, their paws are tucked tightly underneath them, their head is low. This is a cat that's bracing itself against serious pain. If you see your cat doing this, it's a huge red flag.
So here are 4 critical signs of pain that you should commit to memory. First, that meatloaf position we just talked about. Second, panting. Cats don't pant like dogs. If they're breathing with their mouth open and they haven't been playing hard, that could be a serious problem. Third, big changes in grooming. Maybe they're licking one spot raw, or maybe they've stopped cleaning themselves altogether. And finally, lethargy. If your cat suddenly couldn't care less about their favorite toy or treat, that's them telling you they just feel too awful to do anything.
And let's circle back to yowling for a second, because age and context are everything. A little kitten yowling at night, they're probably just cold, hungry, or lonely. Simple stuff. But a senior cat, say over 10 years old, that suddenly starts yowling at night, that could be a sign of something much more serious, like the feline version of Alzheimer's or a thyroid problem. Same exact behavior, but a totally different meaning depending on their age.
So, there you have it. We've decoded their sounds, their body language, their little habits, and even their most urgent cries for help. That whole mystery of what your cat wants, turns out it's not so mysterious after all. They've been talking to you this entire time. And the only question left is, now that you can finally speak their language, what new secrets are they going to tell you?